tonight with two commissioners from the fire district, Dwight Smith and Ed Frank. And then we also, I believe, have Kevin Sawyer from Key Construction, the construction manager for the project, on the phone or on the Zoom, if he's been able to get on there, if we have questions for him as well. We're here tonight, as you said, for an amended site plan approval. The purpose of this amended site plan approval is to add a construction trailer on the site that was not previously shown on the plans. Some of you may recall, I see there's some new members here, but just some history. We got our original approval in October of 2016, came back for an amended approval in July of 2023 to have the DOT permit pushed to prior to C of O. I'm happy to report that that process is going well and we're well underway with that, so we should have it much sooner than that. And just getting into tonight's application, we are proposing a construction trailer on the lot. You can see on the plan there, it's been called the Elm Street lot, the lot across the street from the firehouse on the corner of King Street and Elm Street. The purpose of it is to provide offices for the general contractor, construction manager, and the project architect, the rest of the design team.
And this lot is owned by the district, right?
It is, yes, it's part of the site plan, so that this lot that has been owned by the district is part of the site plan. It provides parking spaces to help the project comply with parking requirements. So it's basically an existing lot that wasn't really intended to be touched. The only thing we're doing here is providing a construction trailer, directors, visitors, etc. There are 2 access doors to it and 2 lights on wall-mounted lights that are only like 60 watts each. There are bollard lights around the parking lot that exist today that would remain. And then this trailer would have temporary water and sewer, just like any other construction trailer that would be, the water would be brought in, non-potable water would be brought in, and the sewage would be carried out by a temporary company that does like porta johns, etc. So,
A question for you.
yes.
The lot, what's it being used for now?
It is currently being used for parking for I believe some of the tree service. Everyone that's using it today
Right.
recognizes that this project is going on and they're gonna have to relocate it. So I believe it's some of it is used by some of the tree service that's across the street, so they need to, you know,
Find new
the
parking.
district is kind enough to allow them to use it, but they're gonna have to figure things out and find some other parking.
So during construction, I'm assuming that lot's gonna be filled up with construction people, project managers, engineers, architects, and so
Yes.
forth. So
Yes.
all the people currently using the lot will find parking elsewhere.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
I had one question, do we know on the specifications of the trailer, where the sewage is collected? Is it inside, is it down some sort of belly tank or something, just in terms of any exposure to potential vandalism?
It will be outside. Typically they're below the trailer. All the sites that I've been at, I've never seen a tank sitting outside
Right,
from underneath it, so I believe that would be the case. And I did ask that same question and that's what I was told, but we can clarify that for sure.
That's okay, that's fine, but I just wanted to make sure that was
Yeah.
accounted for.
Yeah.
So-
There is a 4-foot fence, I believe it's 3 or 4 feet around the property right now that would remain in place, and I believe there's a gate across the driveway too? No gate, so there's a 4-foot gate fence, but there's no gate across the driveway itself.
All right,
Any other
any
questions?
questions from board members? Staff? Okay,
I have one, excuse excuse me, I have one
Mhm.
thing, this is very, very minor, but it, it has, in this plan, you have a lot of places where you didn't follow what I think is what's showing you, 0 and a yes, like this one, it has X's, but right above it, it says, yes, if the blank line provided, and letters NA should be entered if not, or something like that, so is that standard, that you just put an X, a line of X's, instead of not it could be NA, or it could be put it to another page?
Okay, so the directions on the top say put yes or NA, and I put an or we put it as an X.
Unless I've read it wrong.
And that may be the case, and maybe you just put the X instead of the
It'd
yes.
be so kind that way.
We can certainly revise and resubmit that application, no problem.
I mean, I can, I can understand because a lot of the stuff that you have in this required document is talked about twice in a regular one. But this is for the fire department and it's going through a lot of stuff. And so maybe someone thought, well, it's not really a yes and it's not really an NA. But something has to define it. X means something. Okay?
I can revise that application and resubmit it for record.
Okay, great.
Have we already issued a building permit for this?
I
No.
don't know. No, I don't think so.
No, so we have the site plan signed, we're basically in the process of working towards the building permit. There were a number of conditions of the original site plan approval in order to get the permit, which included staking the limit of disturbance and identifying the trees to be saved and removed, putting in the erosion control, et cetera. So the contractors have been hired, they're out there today working through that and trying to get that set so that we can have the inspections by the town staff and get that moving. And I think there were a few other paperwork items that we're also working through.
Okay, just because of transparency, I drove by it right now and this is fully installed already before this. And I
Correct.
think just from a standpoint of,
Correct.
we it's a fire department, right? But there's, I think, protocols that the town follows for, if we had a comment today and you're losing 8 spots, we were talking about spots, what's the process, right? We would hate to have the fire department have to remove a trailer that was installed prior to getting the full approval.
So the notice that we needed this approval came with the delivery of the trailer. We didn't really realize that it was required. So as soon as we heard that it was required, which was basically I think the day after it was delivered to the site, we turned around and submitted the application within I think 3 or 4 days, something like that, to get here on this board with you.
Okay,
And we apologize for that, and obviously, under normal circumstances, that wouldn't happen, but we had no idea that we needed this approval from your board.
okay.
Yep, okay. Good. Any other comments, questions? Any comments or questions from the public on this application? Okay, not seeing any. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have before us a resolution of approval for this application that's been prepared. Again, this is, we are anticipating, again, helping with the fire department. This is one of our one and dones, in one public hearing and done with it, in anticipation. So does anyone have any questions or comments on the proposed resolution, issues at all?
No.
Okay, if not, is there a motion then to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, good luck.
Have a good night.
Okay, our next item is an amendment of a resolution of approval. This is on Jager Realty, 238 Sawmill River Road. This is an application for a site development plan amendment. This is regarding the approval for the installation of Tesla electric vehicle charging stations. it appears that both the applicant and us miscounted the number of parking spaces. And so this is a resolution that will correct that. We had been under the impression that there were 86 parking spaces approved and at the site, in fact, there's 83. So it's a numerical change. I think also there's also now articulation of the requirement of the ADA space as well for one of the charging stations. I think that when we last saw this, we asked for analysis of parking, and I think that even the last time around, we had determined that there was enough room here, and that this is not material, and that there's no reason for us to hold this up. Now, I believe is there anything else I should add, Sabrina?
No, I think that it was, the one thing I wanna say is even though the number is changing, all the analysis was conducted on the correct numbers. It's just the resolution that was miscounting.
Okay,
Alright, but I wanna make sure that everybody understands that all the analysis and the review was done on the proper numbers.
perfect. And you got that one change I gave you before, right?
I do.
Yeah, okay.
So where it's saying 85 spaces are required by the zoning code, and now it's 83.
85 are required by the zoning code, but the applicant is providing 80. There were 83 when the applicant came in with the application, and they will only be providing 81.
Right.
That's why I read that.
Yes.
Does this happen now in all the schools when they teach math, that each team gets a different number? Okay.
I guess it's applicant math, it's okay. Jeff is sympathetic to this. At least they're not in there charging already, so that's good, right?
Good point.
Anyway, so it's really an administrative correction. Any questions at all?
I have a question on the resolution.
Sure.
And I'm just not sure, there's a couple of dates here. On page 1, line 35, it says last revised February 23rd. On page 3, line 25, it says last revised April 24th. And the drawings that are submitted have a September 17th date. So I'm just wondering, are these dates supposed to reconcile? Or are they supposed to be different? Just for clarification.
We do need to add the dates of the new plan that was submitted that reflects the correct numbers.
Okay, so that would be the September 17th drawings, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that change needs to be made. In addition, I also wanna mention that this resolution extends the time for the signing of the site plan by the chairman.
Okay. And Bob, you're satisfied you located the ADA spot and we're okay with that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, great, okay. All right, is there a motion then to adopt the resolution as amended?
Question? Nope, too late?
It's not really it's just an administrative thing, it's really not public. Did you have a comment? Come on up if you want to. But don't hold us up. We're on the streak here tonight.
Nicole Roche, Chair of the West End Advisory Board. I don't think there's anybody here from Tesla, but I still did have a concern. Shortly after the public hearing, you may have seen in the New York Times, there was an article that 500 people from Tesla, just about their whole supercharging staff, was like, oh, and then there was another article a couple of weeks ago, and about the superchargers, but it did not mention the magic docks, which I know Sabrina did change it for the resolution and put that in there. But I'm not convinced, based on the article in the paper a couple of weeks ago, that those charging stations are going to be compatible with all EVs. They also mentioned in the article attachments, and I had specifically asked the people from Tesla Whether that meant people who own, let's say, a Toyota had to have the attachment and the representative said, no, it's going to be, part of the charger. So I know there's nobody here, I know you're gonna pass the resolution, but I just want on the record that it's gonna be a problem if those superchargers are not compatible with all EVs, which is what I had asked for in the public hearing.
Well, they also represented that they would be, and that's in the resolution, so that's what the agreement is. And actually, the article about the firing of people, that actually came out before we took final action. I was surprised that they were going forward with the application at that point.
Right.
I didn't know who was gonna be processing it since they were all being fired, but anyway. So here we are, but that if they do move forward, that's what the resolution calls for, and so they have to include the magic dot.
Okay, great, thank you.
Alright, okay, great. Is there a motion then to adopt the resolution?
Motion?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, we move now to an informal appearance. This is the Bach Capital de Boer, 1015 Hardscrabble Road. This is an application for a site development plan approval, wetland approval, tree removal permit, stormwater management, and erosion sedimentation control for construction of a single-family residence.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, staff, Brad Schwartz from Zarden Steinmetz representing the applicant. With me this evening is Rachel Bach on behalf of the applicant and Douglas DeBoer is on Zoom. Peter Gregory is also in the room, Stephen Coleman on Zoom, and colleague Jacqueline Coleman, you know, is here as well. So Mr. Chairman, as you mentioned, this is an application for a single family residence on a site off of Hardscrabble Road. Candidly, it's a sensitive, constrained site that is burdened by both DEC and town wetlands. We've been processing these applications before your board for about a year and a half now. We've been working on it internally, even longer than that, including some pre-application discussions with staff. We have not been before your board for quite some time. The last time we were here, I think we reached consensus on the layout of the project, and we promised that we would not come back until we received the DEC wetland permit. So I'm pleased to report we have that permit, hence our appearance tonight. I know this is a new board member, so we thought we'd have Peter quickly refresh the board's recollection of the project. We received the staff comment memos, we reviewed them, we're confident we can address all those comments, including the memo that came in today requesting some additional information. We believe we've already provided that, and Peter and Stephen will show you where that is in our application materials. And we hope that at the end of tonight, your board will be positioned to schedule a public hearing on this.
Okay,
Good evening, Peter Gregory with DTS Provident, I'm the project engineer. As mentioned, the project is located at 1015 Hardscrabble Road. It's located on the eastern side of Hardscrabble Road, at just south of the entrance to the Chappaqua Swim and Tennis Club. It's a 1.5 acre piece of property and it's located in the R1 district. There is an existing residence on the property now.
sort of.
There we go, we have photographs. Which we are looking to demolish. And we will be looking to construct a 3-bedroom dwelling, which would be located accessed off of through an easement on the driveway to the Swim and Tennis Club. And if we can just put it into so this is our constraints, as mentioned, lower green area in the southeast corner, those are our state regulated wetlands there. It's also fed by a watercourse coming flowing in a southerly direction parallel with Hardscrabble Road. There's a watercourse that comes through there. And we've also updated this plan to reflect an off-site wetland area on the north side of the driveway to the tennis club. And it too overflows into the watercourse beneath the driveway and comes down into that large, ultimately the state wetland area. For the most part, the majority of the property is located within the regulated buffer area. The small piece that's with the colored in yellow is the only portion that's located outside of any of the buffers, both the town and the state regulated area. You can see on the other side, just to the left, is the location of the existing residence right in that area, and that's what's being proposed to be demolished. And we're looking to reconstruct up in the upper portion, which would be on the northern side of the property. So this is our overall site plan showing the location of the proposed dwelling, access driveway. We've tried to keep the dwelling and the driveway as far east as possible to avoid to stay away from what was the watercourse and the town wetlands to the west of it. And we've also pushed it up as far north as possible to keep the majority of the structure outside of the state regulated buffer area. It will require a variance for a front yard setback of 30 feet based on its proximity to the property line to the north. We are providing water service connection coming through the driveway through an easement. We had originally shown that to cross the watercourse, and we've removed it out of that area, and we are now showing it up and coming through the driveway and staying out of the stream. The septic area is located to the rear of the house. It's that lightly yellowish colored area. That area has been tested. Health department has witnessed testing with us, and we found this area to be suitable for the new septic. The original septic serving the house is in the wetland area for the most part, down behind the existing dwelling, so we would be looking to relocate that system up to the rear of the house. The septic system will involve an enhanced treatment unit. We're gonna treat that effluent before we discharge it into the ground, and our discharge will take place in a sand filter system to give us additional treatment prior to getting into the surface. Based on the disturbance associated with this work, we did have a mitigation plan prepared. We can put that up as well, and then maybe have Steve talk about what our mitigation is as a result of disturbance that's being created as a result of construction.
Quick question, is that the final shape of the house, or is that just diagrammatic?
No, that is the final shape of the
That's the
house.
shape of the house.
Yes, it is.
And we have some rendering, just see in a couple slides. Steve?
Good evening. Good to see everyone. Regarding the mitigation, the approach that we took with looking at, the impacts, because it's all within the wetland and wetland buffer on the property, we looked to see how we could improve the functional value of the existing buffer to support the integrity of the on-site wetland area. And so what we did is we concentrated the mitigation to be primarily along the edges of the wetland and watercourse area. And also that includes restoration, pretty extensive restoration of the where the existing residence is located. That'll be restored as well, which is in the buffer. So the challenge on this site is we have disturbance from tree removal and disturbance within the buffer. So we're trying to look at the mitigation more holistic to see how the trees could also support, the tree replacement to support the functional value that for the wetland buffer, and that's kind of the approach we've taken. When we look at it, when I look at this area, I look at it from a wetland standpoint and not so much, the area that's regulated by the state versus the town. Based on the town's criteria, the state wetland is also a town regulated wetland. It meets the same criteria, so that's why the mitigation is designed more to holistically to treat it as one resource. And we have mitigation proposed throughout what would be referred to as the adjacent area for the state wetland, but we also have mitigation proposed within areas that are outside of the state confines, but would still be within the buffer for the town. And I think we have a very sensible plan, and I feel that we have enough strategy in place that I think we can minimize the impact from, the development of the new residence in the location that is shown on the plan. A couple other things to take into consideration. I mean, we have no direct wetland impact by putting the new residence in the far northern corner. The existing, if we were to try to develop that into a viable residence, again, would have required pretty extensive disturbance to the existing wetland resources. So when we made our application to the state and discussion with state personnel, they supported the concept of not using the existing residence and liked the fact that we were able to move disturbance as far as feasible from, the edge of the wetlands, and so that's why we have it in the concentrated in the corner. And we also really look to see how we could, minimize that impact, and so we have, a split rail fence and, other aspects to kind of separate with vegetative filter plant along the edge of the septic and the rear yard, so that we're maximizing, nutrient, retention and hoping to improve the water quality functions that are provided by the, remaining buffer area. So with that, if there's any questions or other comments, I'd be happy to address.
I have a question. The Chappaqua Swim and Tennis Access Road, that's a private road, right?
Correct.
And of course, you've been to talk to the people that are on the other side of the let's say, what is it called, right of way? Yeah, right of way that they have obtained. And also whether that brings any problems, because 50 feet is pretty good, that's fine. But whose property is it that you're running over? And do the homes across the street, plus the people that run the tennis and swim?
So all the access, Mr. Brunel, would be over the Chappaqua Swim and Tennis Club right away. We wouldn't be encroaching onto anyone else's private property. Going back to a deed, I think like 1950s, we have rights of ingress and egress over the right of way to get to Hardscrabble Road. So that's already been established decades ago. What we're doing now is discussing with the club, just confirming our right to install the water line, right, the connecting water line within the right of way as well. There's other utilities already in the road. I think we can make an argument that we already have the right to do it, but just to paper everything up and kind of be on good terms with our neighbors. I've been in touch with the club's attorney on a regular basis. There's an easement agreement already drafted. We've gone back and forth a couple of times. I hope when we're here next time, I hope to have it signed up and ready to go.
Can you also provide us a copy of the existing arrangement or easement or rights over the right of way that you have?
Absolutely.
Great.
Once it's finalized, Mr. Chairman, we'll submit to the town.
Oh, I'm referring to the one that you referred to earlier,
Oh,
that goes back to the
that
fifties.
deed I believe is, you already have it. It was submitted, I think, last March. We could resubmit it for you.
Okay, terrific,
Yeah.
great, thanks.
The other question I had was, so there's like a 14-15 feet drop, right? From where you sort of indicated the fence to be, down into the wetland area and the buffer area. This is where the septic is gonna be located, is that right? Where there's a potential expansion beyond the fence? Is that happening now, or is that just for future?
We are required to designate an area for future expansion area or replacement area for the septic. We believe that we won't have to improve or develop that area, so that can be maintained in the current condition. So the extent of the work for the septic would be located in that upper portion just behind the house and adjacent to the driveway.
Like inside that fence that you're showing, I think that's just a construction fence for construction purposes, right?
Well, we are proposing a split rail fence to limit any future encroachment into the buffer area, and that's gonna encircle the lawn to the rear of the house. And I think it passes across the septic area. So the primary septic would be located within the fence, and the future expansion area is located downhill of the fence.
Because the future expansion area is dropping by 8 feet. So I don't know what that future septic looks like, but you would have to change the grading there at
There
some
is
point.
fill, there is fill required for placement over this area, it will be regraded. But as part of the work, we may not have to install the fill at this time, so we can leave that area undisturbed.
So on that question, is it because of the enhanced septic area, septic system, the aerobic system, et cetera, with the sand, et cetera? Is that why you feel confident that you will not be called upon to build out the expansion area?
It's a request that we would make to the county health department.
Right.
In order to preserve that area, minimize the disturbance. And all we would be doing we'd be asking not to place the fill at this time. They would do it in the future.
Well, it's more than fill, right, because we have.
And the system itself, yes.
Yeah, the slopes and the trees and so it's actually substantial amount of work if you have to build out the expansion. And to Kanan's point, a lot of leveling has to be done for that fill. So it's I guess and I think that's a critical consideration. One of the observations or questions I have is what we, you have the DEC permit, but at the same token, we also have overlapping requirements and responsibilities under the town law. And it's very difficult, and we have this other situation where the Board of Health will not do anything unless we take measures to approve. So what I'm fearful of and what I wanna protect against, and I think we talked about this at staff, is that any approval would be subject to any sort of change whatsoever, including, for example, expansion. We would wanna hear back and come and see what's going on. This is a very unusual application. We've never approved anything with this amount of wetland and buffer disturbance for a one-family home. So it's something I think that we need to be very careful about.
Yeah.
So any kind of additional change, disturbance, it seems to me that the planning board should reserve its right to make sure that the town's regulations are protected, and the town's interests are protected. So that would be one thing, for example, I hope that is the case, that we don't have to build out expansion, we always hope that. And very often the board works with developers and we're successful. I'm hopeful that you'll have even better success or a better chance of, because of the system that you're proposing. And that they'll be on board with that and say yes. By the same token, obviously we'll have to set up all kinds of requirements in terms of proper maintenance of the system, because that system apparently doesn't work very well unless it's really well maintained by the
And
homeowners.
we will be required to report the maintenance of that unit back to the county health department.
I had a question on the expansion area also. There's part of it is in the peach color and part of it's in the white color. Do you have to come back for a variance to put it into the peach color? If you were to build the expansion, or is that all kind of covered in this
It's
DC?
covered.
In the
That is
DC?
covered with the application that was submitted to the state as well as to the Westchester County Health Department. That area has been included, and we've actually shown it being improved or regraded at this time.
Well, then what's gonna stop people in the future for building something really big? So that this is something, as Chairman noted, this is very unusual, and there's other things that could be done, like move the building in 10 feet, that would save a lot of space in the back. But the other thing is also, you are flagging the line between the wetlands and the buffer, and which seems to me to open up all this pink stuff to build other stuff, or at least some, like a shed here and a shed there and that, and I would be against that. I would think that you should flag where the major parts of the pink side with the wetland buffer, and keep people out of that, other than people that have to maintain the whatever the future brings with the way of trees and bushes and other things, which would be, I think, different.
And we are looking to control all that disturbance based on what we're showing here.
I don't see it on the map. What I see on the map is flagging the wetlands the green. And I wanna see that it's flagged up here at on the top of the buffer.
We are providing a fencing to demarcate that area of disturbance to prevent, hopefully discourage anything moving around extending to that area, but all of the work will be contained in that upper area around the
Is that the pink line that is indicating where the fence will go, or where will that fence be?
No, I think this,
Yeah, good question.
I think that's the fence with the post.
I see.
That's what's inside.
Like a little circle in the line.
So that's
Got
the
it.
designation for the fence line through here. This
Alright.
is just a limit of disturbance that's occurring as a result of the regrading.
Got it.
But our barrier is located along the west side as well as the fence line coming around below the septic and back up and tying up to the side.
So that line of disturbance though, is that something that we're looking at no matter what?
Yes.
Even if you don't have to build out the expansion?
Does it have to regrade
In
there?
this area in here, that is correct, yes. If we don't have to build this, we will be able to bring that disturbance right along the fence line.
Okay, okay.
If you don't,
The
you
lines are
don't have to
confusing.
build it, that area of disturbance moves up closer to the fence line?
Right.
So
They
how
have
are you
to build
going
it
to
now.
grade, like typically, there's a 5-foot expansion past your disturbance, whatever you're building for, whether it's a track,
think it's
the tracks for the equipment.
Mhm.
So are you saying that you're not gonna be, you're gonna move that area disturbance closer to line 414? And do all of your grading and all your work from within the property?
We would keep everything for the primary portion of the system up
Within the
over
fence?
the fence line. In the event that we have to install the expansion area, that disturbance will come down just below that line,
What is
the pink line.
the likelihood of that event where you have to create an extension of another system? Sorry, I didn't get that.
Well, in this case, we won't be looking to expand the septic, we're not looking to increase bedrooms. I don't think we will be able to in the future to expand the number of bedrooms in the home. It's more than likely if that area had to be utilized, it would be to repair that system.
So why put it into this application at all?
We have to represent to the Westchester County Health Department the area and what's required to improve that area in terms of the regrading.
Right.
So that's part of the application that's going into the health department, all the plans will be consistent with one another.
The open question is the health department gonna make you do the expansion prep now versus do the expansion prep down the road if you need to use it,
Forever.
or ever?
Right, so normally what the health department is looking for is that we have access to this area in the future, which we will, we're right off of the edge
Yeah,
of the
which you should.
driveway. And I do believe we have a specimen or several specimen trees that are just south of the primary area outside the fence that we would like to preserve
Yeah.
and maintain that. So I think we do have a valid reason or a reason to request it, it has to be requested, and they would take a look at that and confirm it at that time of the review of the permit.
But I wanna go back to what Jeff was questioning, and that was the disturbance line itself. The pink line right now is going through the middle of the expansion area. Why can't that disturbance line be basically a 414 line? I think that's what Jeff was leading, and that's certainly where I would be interested in seeing. I don't understand why we are showing this disturbance line at this point down at line 410. I mean, you can show, maybe you have to send a different plat into the board to show that this is where it will go. But I think from our standpoint, we would want to minimize as much as possible on this site the disturbance. And so to the extent that you can bring that disturbance line so it's consistent with the fence line or the 414 line, 414 actually makes sense to me. And I see this pink line and I say, that means in the field, you guys are gonna disturb it all the way out to 410.
And I think that's part of the grading, if you look, the pink line is 410, ballpark, right, and it connects back in.
Yep.
So they're adding approximately 2 feet of fill on top, so they need that area to grade down for a slope to 410.
You're saying they have to fill it to.
That's what it appears to be. It's not that I'm answering a question for you, but.
No, but the grading that we're showing is our attempt to minimize that disturbance that's gonna extend into that regulated area. And we haven't had any feedback from the health department yet. I do know that the septic area can be moved around, relocated, adjusted. This is set based on the topography testing, the soil testing,
Right.
as well as our proximity to that wetland line. So that is the area.
No, I understand that, it's again, this issue of the grading and the extent of disturbance. So to the extent we can avoid that, that's critical. I had a question about the driveway. What is the proposed surface?
It will be paved. The driveway will be paved. We're gonna collect any runoff that's generated by that, and we're going to route it through our stormwater infiltration system. Our mitigation system for the stormwater consists of a subsurface infiltration system in the front of the house, as well as rain gardens along the western side of the house. So all of the runoff from the roof, the driveways and the walkways will be captured and routed through that system prior to it being discharged off site.
I'm curious, since it's a private road, why can't you move the building 10 foot closer to the right of way? And that would solve some of the back end issues also. It's, you know, in the wintertime, hardly anybody goes up and down. You know, if it's really cold, they don't like to play in, you know, with ice all over their whiskers. But this is, you know, something that I know a lot about. And, you know, there's only like 4 houses on the other side of the road if they were all still there. So if you move it up, you wouldn't, in my mind, be violating the regular regulations for having setback with buildings.
And
You still could, you know, still would have the 50 foot.
we did,
Just
we
put up
looked at
signs to
that.
go drive slowly.
I think the concern we had is that when we performed our initial soil testing on the site, we encountered a lot of ledge rock on the property. The area where the infiltration system is in front of the house is the only area we had a reasonable depth of soil that we could install those infiltration chambers. We do need to maintain a certain separation distance between our foundation and that system. And I don't think we wanna shift the house to the west toward the water course to avoid it. We've always been keeping that further east and up as far as possible.
Is there a garage proposed in this design?
Northern side.
Will the cars be parked outside?
Yes, that's correct.
One of the other issues we talked about was sort of along Dick's lines, was moving everything to the east. And I know there was the objection of the home on the east, but it's not a home, it's a shed. And you're going for a variance anyway, so to the extent that we can limit and reduce impacts to the buffers, seems to me to be an important issue. Not to change the architecture, not to change the layout, the size of the home or anything else. But, you know, I think I'd asked that a number of times and it seems that you guys just come back with the same proposal. And again, I'll defer to Bob, we'll hear about the surface treatment, the surfaces of the driveway. But in these kinds of events, we very often will not have it paved with asphalt, we'll have it with some sort of surface that percolates and we get some sort of play from it. So those are some issues that I think are still plague us, or plague me at least with this application. And again, because it is, as Brad has said, so tightly constrained in such a very unusual application, it's we're looking for help, or at least I'm looking for help, a lifeline.
We did actually study pushing that house for this, but that actually is a house on the adjacent property. I think it's 1017 Hartsville. I mean, it's vacant right now, but that house is located right along that property line. It shows up on our plan.
Right.
And I think very early on, we had originally shown the parking space in front of the house. And one of the things that we had studied early on was to flip it to the east to keep more of that surface out of the buffer. However, last month, when we located the wetland to the north of the driveway that was off-site, it now put a lot of these items back into a buffer. So where we were at one time out of the buffer, and that was an area that wasn't considered toward that that parking space to the east is now located in a buffer as well.
But that's a buffer that is from a wetland that's across the street.
That's correct, yes.
So it's segmented from the driveway. And to my way of thinking, I'm not so sure, we don't have to study on it, I would imagine that the function of that is of less concern to us than the wetland to the west. And so again, comparing wetlands with wetlands and buffers with buffers, that might be a less important one, and one that we would be perhaps a little bit more interested in seeing, not seeing a problem, but less concerned if we went in there. As opposed to the wetland to the west and to the south. We obviously those are far more important. And I mean, it's all a matter of degree, but it seems to me that is it certainly is a valid concern, and now we have this on the map. But I think in terms of its actual function, it may be of a less concern. And it's something, and again, even with regard to that structure, whatever you wanna call it. Again, having the turnout over toward that area, we can certainly buffer with vegetation for turnarounds. But again, to the extent that we can move things further from the west out of the important wetlands, out of the important buffer, really is very helpful.
So we had submitted an alternative that showed that, the last time we were here, I forget, I don't have that submission with me, it was earlier this year, so we had shown an alternative, probably moving a little bit farther east. I guess part of the problem is so much time lapsing between these appearances, so we do have it before you, take another look, we're happy to look back and take a look and we discuss it next time. But I thought at the next meeting, we'd all kind of reached a consensus that this was an acceptable location, but let's revisit it, that we already have done that work to show what it would look like shifting over east.
Okay, good. I know I know that at one point you had the hammerhead coming in front of the house, so we looked at that, I think we all decided that was not preferable, right? Okay.
And to go back, Mr. Chairman, to your comments earlier about the conditions of any changes coming back and the maintenance, obviously, yes to all, we hear you, and that we will wrap up as conditions improved.
Okay.
The house that's existing and that we've taken out, there are also all these trees that are there. Is that something you're gonna try and maintain, or what goes into make the improvement of that area once the house is taken out? The existing house.
That's correct. So the idea was that the foundation would remain. We were asked to study reinforcing that foundation to ensure that the roadway and shoulder wouldn't be compromised in demolition. But the idea was to keep the foundation, backfill behind it, regrade that area, and then plant on top of that area. We did include a plan that talks about the removal and restoration of that area, showing how the access will come in to do that work, minimizing the disturbance to the watercourse and the wetlands to the east of it. Off the top of my head, I don't remember, but we are trying to preserve as much of the existing trees. All of the work is gonna take place on the patio behind the house. The patio would just be filled in over.
Got it.
And we do have clear access from Hardscrabble Road looping around down to that lower area to do the work. And the idea would be that we would take the house down by hand. They will disassemble it and load it into dumpsters that would be located in the front of the house
How deep
to
is
minimize pulling on it.
you're gonna keep the foundation wall, so is there a basement there?
It's a walkout. So the whole eastern
How
side,
deep is the fill that you're gonna put inside it?
I think we're gonna be about 6 feet.
And is that is it gonna be compacted back
Yes, it
fill?
is.
Okay.
Compacted. Some of the areas closer to the watercourse will be armored with stone or riprap, as well as planting on top of that.
I think, as I recall, that Steve had supplied us with some information about this, and including the sequencing and all that, so we would wanna make sure that we, again, it's been a while. And we have new members, so we would really wanna see that again and go through that, so sorry about that, Steve, but I think you've done it once before. But it would be important for us to see that plan sequencing and how you're gonna actually do that. I know Steve has addressed it before, but
We do have a copy of that plan that was submitted into.
Would you like to address that right now?
I just know that you've done it, so, I mean, Steve can,
Steve, can you
yeah,
speak to it?
why not?
It's yours. Stephen, are you able to address the construction sequencing? The demo included?
Yeah, I'm putting it up so that everybody can see it. Can you enlarge it at all, Peter?
Mr. Chairman, it was November 13th of 2023 when we submitted that alternative. It was the December meeting when we had presented it, expressed our preference to keep it in this location. And at that discussion in December, it was, I think, discussed, keep it where it is and go to DEC based upon that layout.
Right.
So I'm trying to pull up that plan, but needless to say, November of 2023.
Okay.
The plan for renovation of, removal of the existing residence. We had several discussions with DEC personnel as well as, the town staff regarding, concerns on how do we protect the integrity, of the stream system that's so close to the existing residents. So this plan shows, some different protection techniques. I mean, the standard things are we're gonna provide tree protection and then, there's a stone masonry retaining wall that's gonna remain. And then we have, and also armoring, with, to reinforce the edge along the stream system so that, during the removal, there's no disturbance to the stream system itself. And that was something that DEC was very concerned about as well, and so they reviewed that and were comfortable with the recommendations that we have shown on planning. We've got it'll be done, as Peter indicated, by hand, removing sections of it and then, carted away, and then the fill will be, compacted, in the foundation so that it's, provides the stability that's needed to maintain, the integrity of the foundation. And then, as far as the type of soil, we will have to do some soil amendments, to make sure that the plantings that are proposed will, do well in that type of soil that's provided.
I have one question. When you show the fuel fill there, is that leading up to some sort of underground tank?
Yes, there was an underground tank there. The tank has been removed. And it was certified and cleaned up.
By the DEC, okay, perfect,
Not by the DEC, by the owner.
got it.
Okay, again, I have some new members, perhaps you can put some of the architectural renderings, I thought they were important to the application. You haven't seen it, Jeff, have you, renderings, architectural renderings? Okay.
I'm still annoyed with, they're gonna put a line down here, mark it with flags, not fencing. That's not what was used, it's on the paper is this, and then down here, I don't mind if they do some of this stuff, particularly this might last 10 years, this one up here. But I'd like to see this red line, be the one that's marked with stones or something like that, and that's not coming through.
Yeah.
It's true, it says they're supposed to do this, if you're into it, it's up here, right?
Good evening.
Good evening, Reza Bach. I'm working on a project with Doug on this thing for
Could you move a little closer to the microphone?
There you go, there you go.
Not at all. Okay.
You might not have to ask the same question twice.
No worry. Rachel Bach, I've been working on this project with Doug for about 3+ years. So it's been a while. We're trying to get this thing done and the intention is to do something that is appropriate for the site. So we really extensively looked at the site, looked at conditions, looked at the environment. I mean, this is amazing view to the wetlands. So the intention was to create a design, create an architecture that really brings in the environment into the property. And also, we have to remember the way the building is located and Hardscrabble Road coming through. It's at night when the leaves are gone in the middle of winter, you're gonna see this building. So the intention, and going back to the questions as far as why we located this thing, we calculated, I mean, on 3D models on the computer, I'm not gonna worry you guys with those drawings, but we had calculated exactly the angle of the building. So when people are driving from Hardscrabble Road, can you go to the site plan actually?
The site plan?
Yeah, just the site plan. So, I mean, the consideration that we went through for the location of the building was pretty extensive. Just zoom out of that one a little bit. So
A lot easier with a projector right in front with the film, right?
you know, telescope it. This right here is fine. Right here is fine, Peter. So essentially, we'd calculate coming in from this angle, you would actually see the property, see right into the house. So that's why we've located everything on this side. We've actually created a wall here, so we're not creating creating privacy from this view. We're creating privacy from this side. So there's a lot of consideration that we threw in coming to this location of the building on the site. And the intention was to create, go back. The number one thing that we agreed on was not to build a McMansion. Big, huge building with media rooms and all these like miscellaneous stuff, to do something very simple, clean, somewhat of a minimalistic architecture, modern but not flamboyant modern, not boxes stacked on top of each other. Have one simple vocabulary, and that was one of the questions that was asked, is the shape of the building that way? It's because of the site restrictions, we're only allowed to have this long linear shape that kind of calls for a modern design. Can you go to the next image? And again, we introduced, this is a very preliminary design. We don't want to go too far into the design till we actually have the permits and everything in place. The intention is to actually use natural materials. So these are all intended to be natural stone.
And that's what's facing the wetland?
That is what's facing the wetlands, yes. So this is the bedrooms, and also, I don't know if you can see on these, we pushed the actual living spaces further in. So from Hardscrabble Road, you do not see into people's living room spaces. That's why these walls are coming out. We've actually made the floor plans a little narrower, longer to create that privacy. So we have natural stone here, and this is intended to be wood. Very simple, clean architecture. And then a lot of outdoor space. So the intention is to actually have a lot more outdoor. So what we're doing actually for the time being, we assuming the living rooms are upstairs, bedrooms are downstairs.
Because of the height difference?
Because of the height difference, and also visually, you actually have this spectacular view to the wetlands, and also privacy. Again, you're driving on Hardscrabble Road, you don't want to see into somebody's bedroom. The idea is to actually elevate this up, so it gives you a certain sense of privacy. Next one. This is the other view. This is where if you're standing on top of the septic, I don't think anybody wants to stand on top of the septic system, but this is the other view looking at direction. Again, the roof cantilevers are just a conceptual stage at this point. And the idea is to actually have a very minimalistic view to the other side. So the public side is somewhat of a solid facade. It's gonna be mostly stone. Next one. That's what we have here.
It's the stone and the roof that's wood.
Yes. So the intention is to actually, if we have such an incredible natural environment, we wanna have a natural wood and stone materials on the site. Because there's a lot, as Peter was saying earlier, there's a lot of natural stone on the site. And the idea is to kind of convert that into the building.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just while we're in the spirit of refreshing everyone's recollection of the application, we also did go to the ERB, I don't remember when, but we went, this past December. So the ERB, again, was okay with this site layout. A lot of their comments were predominantly around the construction sequencing, the removal of the home, which is why Stephen has gone through that analysis. But I just wanted to remind you, we were at the ERB and got the thumbs up on this layout.
Yep, good, thank you. Okay, Sabrina, do you have comments, questions?
I don't have any comments or questions. I really think that Dennis should go first.
Okay,
You know, I had written, you know, staff had written a memo based on our conversation this morning, so I think a lot of that falls within Dennis's purview.
okay, Dennis.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so just to start, and maybe some of this isn't thinking ahead, cause obviously if, you know, such a unique and kind of record-breaking, trend-setting, however you wanna refer to this, is gonna be written in the form of a resolution. I think it's important, and that's why it was my first comment, to sort of tighten up the numbers with respect to consistency and, you know, really what was approved by the DEC and then, you know, what the extra consideration is for the town. So to sort of start, as you can see, I sort of lay out 3 different square footages, you know, from looking at DEC's permit, from reviewing the plan, and then seeing what's listed on the EAF. So, you know, if this resolution is gonna sort of authorize something, I think there just needs to be just a consistency in what that would be. And I think for clarity, and if I am mistaken, I am free for the application team to comment. So the DEC's permit listed 16,659 square feet as on the permit. But if you sort of look at the layout, and obviously what the applicant went through with respect to the 2 different buffers, yes, the DEC needs to consider a single and complete project when only a component of that project ends up in their regulated area. They're just not gonna analyze the septic and forget about everything else. So that permit is almost, and they do reference the plans as being, you know, obviously tied to that permit, but listing all that square footage to me doesn't mean that DEC approved the entirety of this project in their wetlands buffer. And I think we could prove that by, if you wanted to now move the house entirely within DEC's buffer, I think they would have issue with that. So to me, I just want, again, thinking ahead to a resolution, it needs to be clear sort of what that differential is from the perspective of, you know, what the town ended up approving. That was, you know, gonna be obviously more of a square footage because we regulate the larger buffer versus what DEC ended up, you know, listing in their permit, but in my opinion, only covered what was in their adjacent area, which is different than our buffer.
Dennis, excuse me, can Peter just jump in?
Sure, please do.
Dennis, my concern, trying to understand what you're looking for, is the entire buffer, the disturbance to all of the buffer was 16,000 square feet. So you're not gonna be looking to approve additional area. That's inclusive of both, of all the buffer area.
Town and state.
Town and state.
Right,
Yeah.
so then this is the number that should also appear on sheet IL-2, and then that should be the number that also appears on the EAF. I just wanted to
The
be clear.
EAF may not have been updated.
Okay,
But after our site meeting, looking at the wetland across the street, the
Right.
disturbance did increase a little bit. But I can tell you that the breakdown between the two is that the state's buffer is approximately 8,500 square feet,
The town's is approximately 11,000 square feet.
And if we wanna document that in the resolution,
I think it's important because, you know, you used to work on the other side of the fence and some of this can be used to sort of advance other things if it's not made clear. So I just wanna, cause this is, you know, gonna be sort of a maybe serve as a benchmark. And I know that there's some uniqueness to this property so that it's not the same as an undeveloped property that is wetlands and you're gonna look to develop it, but I think the numbers just need to be documented, you know, cause if they're not, then there's like a vagary here that something got approved, but we're not sure what the disturbance was and we don't even know what the mitigation ratio was, and so that's sort of my concern going forward, just to tie up the math. I mean, that's kind of important, so.
Agreed.
So that was it, that was like basically the inspiration for the first comment. I saw 3 different numbers and didn't know where to settle on, so. Right, so that just kind of follows through onto page 2. I just felt from looking at the site plan, again, maybe this goes into the staging and construction, the stockpile area, you know, and just dimension, working off the scale just didn't seem to be that sizable, and I felt, and you know, I spoke to Bob and he says, you know, yeah, it would be reasonable if you wanted to recommend a cut and fill analysis, because I don't know what you're gonna encounter or how much you're proposing in terms of rock. Obviously, there's gonna be soil, and I just didn't know if that one location was gonna be able to accommodate all of that material. So that was just a comment with respect to construction. The tree removal permit application, I know Steve has referenced that, you know, obviously a lot of this would be finalized with respect to your proposal when the project layout was finalized and, you know, submission at that time. I know you guys did an original tree survey. I know 1 or 2 have since fallen, so obviously you'd be free to remove those, you know, from the list if you chose to do so. And we would obviously have to go through with, you know, what would be required in terms of replacement under 121-6 and, you know, what would meet those requirements to avoid, and it's just, you know, not only in sort of ecological advancement and concept, but even in the construct of the ordinances, I find it difficult to mix and match, you know, getting the double credit, as you guys know, because I've mentioned this before, so that's important when we get to that point to figure out, you know, where you certainly deserve credit for tree replacement and where honestly it's part of the wetland mitigation, and I wouldn't wanna combine the two because you can't necessarily decide not to plant the tree for wetland mitigation but pay into the tree bank fund, so that's kind of where it gets clumsy. My final just listing of considerations and clarifications for incorporation into the final mitigation plans. I think there just needs to be clarity on that one tree on sheet IL-3. I don't know if you guys had looked at it after taking a look at the memo, but on one plan it shows the tree to be protected, on the other plan it looks like there's a tree that's gonna be planted around where that tree is and it's not shown, so I think that's just clarity on that. I think Steve made mention of, you know, what the concerns are after you remove slabs and patios from soil that hasn't been exposed to, you know, the atmosphere for a fairly long time, so, you know, whatever preparation techniques and amendments, because obviously we're proposing to plant trees in there, so, you know, it's not just seeding it and walking away, so we're gonna have to review that. You know, me and my Latin, just a clarification on the third bullet with respect to which species, and that at this stage, until seeing at least the final plan concludes my comments on this. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bob, you had some comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. A lot of them were discussed during the meeting. Real quick, obviously the applicant has submitted a waiver from Westchester County, and that will be hopefully, I guess you're waiting some sort of response from them. Do you know how long that may take, Peter?
It's gonna take a little while. They have not commenced any review of the application. Everything in the county was put on hold until we received approvals, wetland permits. County did visit the site, county witness testing, but they haven't reviewed any of the application material at this point.
I know we had some discussions previously with the board, talking about the fill and the expansion area. I believe you're going to get, it should be in the resolution, you're gonna request a fill waiver from Westchester County as well.
That's correct, yes.
And a fill waiver, I believe, is something that they inspect only after a building permit is issued, and they make a call at that time.
That's
Is that correct?
That is correct. They would make a site inspection to ensure that there is access to the site and there are reasonable reasons to placement of that fill for disturbing those areas.
Now, my only question is, if you show one thing on the planning board site development plan, you get the adopted resolution, which shows the clear and grading line not going in the areas where you think you don't have to go with the expansion, but if you don't get your fill waiver and you have to change that line, I just want to make certain the planning board is aware of that and how that may be handled. I don't know what your thoughts are, Brad, Peter, Bob?
It's a question.
Sure, you got the, that's right, you got the big bucks.
Just to be clear, the question is, DOH does require the expansion area.
Correct, visual, yes.
I think we should go back maybe and look at maybe two different lines. One that's with the expansion area and one without.
I agree.
Maybe we could deal with this like with a note on the plan and again,
Yes.
just tie it up in a condition in the resolution that makes it clear.
I think it makes
It's
it
like,
clear.
it's like a choose your own adventure, if DOH does X, this happens, if it's Y, this happens.
Yes,
How's that for an answer?
I think that makes good sense.
Big box over here.
What's that?
Big box.
Yeah, there you go. I can rest the rest of the night.
Thank you, Brad. I would expect that coming from you anyway. Thank you, sir.
With an AI answer,
You passed Bob's test.
I learned it all from Bob.
That's why I said the attorney, they always come back with the best answers. Thank you, Brad. We'll keep it inside.
Tough crowd.
Let's see, what else do I have? I guess you submitted it late, but you did get a structural engineer who's gonna demonstrate that during the removal of portions of that building, the road will be structurally intact, because I believe they're gonna buttress the existing foundation wall, and he did a pretty good job, but I didn't really comment on it. But just so the board knows, they did submit something like that. I'm sure they'll wanna see it at the next meeting, but it did come in a little bit late, so I didn't comment on it. Minor comment, I don't know if you saw it, the trench drain, I recommend that you back pitch the driveway so no runoff goes onto the common road. And it goes into the trench drain, probably go 1.5 feet long. And you wanna go over the maximum deflection of 6. I recommend that. And two last ones, this is more of a legal item. John can chime in, I guess you're still working with the club to change the agreements. I would imagine you're gonna come up with a new agreement, including the service line and also the, imagine, that'll only be looked by John, obviously, you don't want to do his work, but John can chime in if anytime he likes.
Well, for medium.
Last, you have something to say, John?
No, I mean, we've spoken about the easement, I mean, we're gonna,
Okay,
you know, it's gonna be they're working on it. They were hoping to present it as in the finalized form at the next meeting.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we will submit it to John, Bob, for review to make sure it's all buttoned up.
thank you, sir. Last but not least, you have to get a street opening permit, and a tapping permit from the DPW prior to the start of construction, which is generally required prior to PP, and those are the end of my comments, Mr. Chairman.
Bob, question for you, I raised
Yes, sir.
the issue about the pavement, the surface treatment of the driveway. Any thoughts on it, one way or the other?
Well, you know, you always like to use green techniques that DEC likes to use. However, unfortunately, Peter can chime in on this. You can't really use it in this case because catch basins and infiltrations can't be above the septic or within so many feet based on separation distances. So unfortunately, and I'm sure Peter looked at this quite a bit, I believe it all has to be asphalt. Is that correct, Pete?
That's correct, yes. It's too close to the system, so we changed it from the permeable pavers to an asphalt surface.
That's the reason for that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Thank you, Peter.
Sure.
Okay. Sabrina, did you have anything that you wanna sum up with, or?
Not really, I think that, from a planning perspective, the applicant, I think is scheduled before the zoning board for a front yard variance. Other than that, everything else is as discussed, there's really not a lot for me to comment on. I think the board needs to consider whether or not you wanna, wait or schedule a public hearing.
Is there any kind of a variance required for the eastern side with the driveway?
No,
Okay.
well, I mean, no. No, all the variances are right now are with respect to the front yard.
Just the front yard.
Right, the right of way for purposes of setback, it resulted in like a corner lot, so it triggered some front yard variances.
Is the front yard the road that's on the access, or is the front yard hardscrabble?
It's both, Mr. Cahol deemed this a corner lot,
It's a
so
corner
even
lot.
though it's a right of way for zoning purposes and setback,
So it's a corner lot on a private road?
that's the determination.
Gotcha, okay,
We agreed to just go along.
I'm with you.
Brad, I have one question for you,
Another
Mr.
one?
Schwartz.
Go ahead.
And I got one too.
Go ahead, you go first.
Well, I missed in all the conversations, and we've talked about existing foundations and the existing house, what's happening with the existing septic system? Does that get all removed, or does that stay buried in place?
The tank would be cleaned, crushed and buried,
Okay,
and the system would remain just abandoned in place.
just abandoned in place, okay. I assume more disturbance by trying to get it out than just leaving it. Okay, thank you.
You done, Rick?
Yes, done.
Yeah, Brad, I think you might have looked at it, but I don't recall. As you know, we have a wacky section in code with parking, off the street. It has to be off-street parking, that turnaround would be considered parking in light of the fact, all the parking, but it fits the description of a parking stall. Does that need to meet the requirements to be 1/2 the distance it is for the principal residence, or was that not considered a street shown on the file map? Did you research that out?
So Bob, good catch. Again, Mr. DePaul caught that as well, so again, we need 3 front yard variances, that's one of them for the parking.
So that will need a variance.
That's been part of the ZBA package as well.
Okay, just checking. Thank you, sir.
Good.
Okay, when, are you scheduled before the ZBA yet?
We're submitting on Friday for the October 30th meeting. Thank you, Jack. So, look, obviously our ask is the board does schedule a public hearing on this, we would love to continue moving everything forward simultaneously.
Okay. Preferences of the board? I mean, I think there's some additional information that we need to see, but I don't think it's show-stopping. And I think that it's the information that we normally can see as we consider and move toward a public hearing, frankly.
I'm favor of
Okay with
public
that?
hearing.
Yep, okay.
I'm good with that.
Good, so what we need then, I guess, is a motion to schedule this for a public hearing, but then Felicia, tell us when that might be, and also Brad, let us know what meets with your schedule.
Yep, that'd be-
Our next meeting would be
It would be after the ZBA.
I don't know if it really matters, frankly.
I'm just looking, October 15th is the next submission deadline, and that would be for the November 6th meeting.
Day after election day, okay.
It's a Wednesday, right?
It is.
Oh, we're pushed to one, oh,
Yeah, it's a
for
Wednesday,
election.
yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, so we'll do that. Is there a motion then to schedule a public hearing on this application for November 6th?
Motion?
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Nice to meet you, night, Bob.
Good night.
Application for preliminary subdivision plat approval, application for stormwater management and sedimentation control. Construction of a 4-lot subdivision.
No, we see you, you're still there.
Okay, but there was a blank spot, I thought we were.
Sabrina, you got me all confused. I don't need much to get confused.
So this is your entire thing.
Sorry about that.
What?
Hopefully we'll get it done, but yeah.
Which one do you wanna put up?
Good evening, Ralph Alfonso,
Yep.
the engineer for the project. I'm here with James Garofalo, he's from Tim Miller Associates. He did their office did the site distance analysis and the phase one. He can see for the site distance analysis if we need to. Just a refresher, this is two existing lots, approximately a total of 23 acres. We are proposing a subdivision of 4 lots. We were previously here with one common driveway that went to 4 lots. The board didn't feel that was right. So we broke it up into, well, then we came back with a couple different options. With 2 driveways, each going to two lots. And we settled on one plan, one layout. And we've now graded it out, put in potential stormwater systems, done a SWIP grading, we've maximized the lot build out as far as house sizes and pools, and here to answer any questions.
Okay.
Ralph,
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to bring your plan up, but you sent it to me all in one. It's 508 feet.
You want just individual?
I can't find it quickly. Let me see if this will work.
The only thing on there is function convenience, just a site plan. If it works, it works. If not, we have plan.
You forgot to give it to me, Felicia.
I have it, but
Okay.
I'll bring my computer next time.
oh, there's a lot on here.
Yeah, if you just click on the site plan one, it's fine.
Don't bring up Ralph's banking accounts.
Is this it?
That's it.
This is the problem. It's seeing it outside of this, so I can't show it.
Next time I'll bring my computer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
easier.
the problem.
Yep, sorry about that. And I have a grading plan here, you have it in front of you, so
Yep, we have
we can talk to it.
ample
Sure.
sketches. Okay, so Sabrina, you wanna go through your comments?
Sure, so I had 2 sets of comments, after a conversation this morning with staff and the planning board chairman, I actually had an opportunity to speak with Ralph this afternoon. I started thinking about this subdivision and, one of the things that, I kept going back to was the first lot and the location of the first lot. And taking a step back, I realized that this is one of the first subdivisions that this board has done. We haven't done a subdivision in quite a long time. We've only dealt with site plans and minor amendments. So this is the first time we've done a subdivision, and typically, after 1999, every subdivision that has come before the planning board is really examined under the guise of a conservation subdivision, just because a lot of the available land that is out there now is very compromised by environmental sensitivities. So in looking at this property and looking at the plan that Ralph keeps amending and submitting, it looks as if he's aware of that. In the sense that there's no disturbance to the wetland, you're trying to be conscientious of trees and everything that you're trying to set forth, but we're kind of going at it backwards. And it could, or it may or may not be beneficial in the sense to the lot count, but it will really help understand how we can better design the ultimate plan. And so under the code, the conservation subdivision regulations start off by the applicant preparing what's called a conventional plan, where you go in and you establish, regardless of what you want to conserve, but what you are allowed to do via the code, the number of lots that you would be able to create on this piece of property. You would then do an environmental analysis of that conservation subdivision and then try and reduce it to a conservation subdivision, and the planning board would have a comparative analysis of the 2 plans. And I think that that would go a long way with the planning board giving you allowances. Very much like other conservation subdivisions, if it's in an R2A zone, they can change the lot size requirements, the setbacks to be more consistent with a half acre or a quarter acre zoning. So it gives the planning board the justification to alter the design to create a better subdivision. So my memo this afternoon and the conversation with Ralph was really take a step back and determine how many lots you can get on the property with a conventional subdivision.
Well, and with the caveat that approvable conventional layout.
Yes.
So we've had that in the past where people just try to draw anything out here and it's not approvable. So the issue is something that we would normally approve as a conventional layout, meeting all the setbacks and codes, et cetera. And then overlay that with the conservation if that's where we wanna go. Again, we had this conversation this morning, it just seemed that you were straining on this. And Sabrina brought up a very good point, and that is a conservation subdivision here might actually, on a state road that's busy, might actually create a little neighborhood here with these 4 homes, which would be, in terms of marketability and livability, et cetera, probably preferable to just having 4 separate homes along this road. Anyway, those were the thoughts, but the issue is it has to be a approvable conventional layout.
Well, and I believe that's what we have right here. We have a 4-lot conventional subdivision that is zoning compliant and approvable, I believe.
Well, I guess the only issue I think that we had this morning in listening to Sabrina was talking about this was that whether or not the common driveways are inherently something that is part of a conventional approvable subdivision, or if it's considered to be a tool that we use with a conservation development.
Bob, can I say something on that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, other subdivisions that had demonstrated it's critical they keep the design standards for the town streets. You can't use common driveways. We had that same problem up in Lehigh. They made them put it in the town street to make certain they can get the lots they needed. So you have to go by the design standards for the streets in Appendix 1 and 2 in Chapter 113, which very quickly you have to apply and use the minimum standards for the radii, which is 175 feet. So that's why it's gotta be a town dedicated street. You just can't make up a flag lot, you just can't make up any type of common driveway, because then it's not a conventional subdivision.
Okay.
So it must meet the standards of the street, which is 20 feet plus 3 and 3 shoulders. And also to the right of way of 50 feet and all the design standards for the geometry as well.
Did we not do our first look at this was 4 subdivisions with 4 separate driveways coming in. So we actually did that, right? And we just concluded that was not
Well, I
compliant.
think we did look at that, and I think the issue on that was that it was not something that would be approvable, in that the state would never approve 4 separate road cuts.
There was one curb cut that came in that had a long driveway, and our
That we saw also.
right, our conversation was people going over other people's property and who takes care of the lawn, and that's what got us to the 2 curb cuts and 2 houses off of each curb
Yeah, I
cut.
don't think we ever did 4
Oh, no?
driveways, no.
I don't think we had
I
4.
thought we did.
But then, again, to talk to Bob's point, I wouldn't need to do a town road, I can do 4 individual driveways to each house, 1 to each house. We don't know if the DOT would approve it or not. I mean, it hasn't been presented to them, so I can't speak to what they
Right.
would say to it.
Oh, the curb cut would have to be coming in from the main town dedicated road. And each one of those houses would be served by a driveway coming off the town dedicated road. You're not gonna have 4 curb cuts on the state road. The 1 curb cut would only be for the town
Okay, so then
Well,
instead
how do we?
design standards for the roadway, and that's it.
I don't know if the state would allow 4 curb cuts.
No, and I didn't say 4, it'd only be 1 curb
No,
cut.
no, no,
No,
I'm
no,
talking
Coming off the road for the main roadway, then you'd have the 4 driveways coming off to the west side of the driveway of the roadway, which is gonna be a design standard for the street, which is gonna parallel 128.
I understand what you're saying, I'm trying to say 4 individual driveways, one to each home,
From 128.
from 128.
He's saying that's not
One each.
No, I'm trying to get my point across. You're gonna have to come in with one road, main road, it's gonna have to make either a bend to the right going north or a bend to the left going south. And there's gonna be a wasted area of lot area in between the east side of the road and the west side of 128. The driveway is gonna be going on the west side of the town road
I get it.
to the lots, if that makes any sense.
So Bob, what you're saying is, implying is that you don't think it's likely that the state would ever approve 4 separate driveway cuts feeding into 4 separate roads off of Route 128?
Absolutely not. I've seen other subdivisions that were done in the past that have combined them, 2 and 2, because of that very reason off the state road, especially on that road, they're coming out there 70 miles an hour, forget it, no, they would never approve 4.
Okay.
They would want one access point, and that's it, the state is always like that, obviously less access points on the roads, especially when people are driving 70 miles an hour, less chance of an accident.
Okay, so if I were to prove out 4 conventional lots, then it would go to a conservation subdivision and you would allow 1 curb cut, 1 common driveway. to the
Well, what I think
rest.
Bob is saying, is we would have a town road and
In
then
the conventional.
conventional, but even with the conservation, you would still probably work off of that town road, but then in terms of shape and angles, et cetera, and frontage, we can do all different kinds of things and reduce frontage so that basically what you might have on a cul-de-sac is, you know, the lots going off at an angle and you'd have the four lots along the road along the cul-de-sac.
The conservation standards, Mr. Chairman, allow you to do a common driveway with up to 4 lots in a conservation subdivision.
No, but they still have to demonstrate they can get the town roadway in.
Correct.
Once they do
Correct.
it, no, you're right, once they do it, then they can go to any other type of driveway, but it won't be dedicated to the town, it's gonna be all private.
Right, okay.
Correct.
Didn't we do that though? That was that one road.
Yes, but we didn't get there yet, right? And so the problem is that the plan that is before us is showing 2 common driveways and not the best layout of the houses. And so the intention here is to do a conventional plan and show the town roadway with the code compliant lots to get a lot count, right? Whether it's 3, 4, or 5, or more, I don't know. And then from there, go down to a conservation subdivision, right? And you know, if the applicant decides that they prefer to have 2 curb cuts with a shared driveway among 2 houses, then that is something for the planning board to consider. But the planning board has the ability, if we go through this exercise, to change your dimensional requirements, which is what I really think you need to do on this piece of property if you're aiming to really protect the wetlands.
Or it's
Protect the property.
if he can keep the same layout that he has for the town road, but reduce the size of the road, reduce the impacts, reduce the imperviousness, and still have the 4 driveways off that common driveway. Just
Yeah, there's a lot more, you'll have many more layout options to create a better community neighborhood which is environmentally protected. Once you do the conventional and you work it down from that point.
So it's a little bit of a step back, but it will give you more options. That's what you were saying.
Probably many more options, yeah.
Many more options and you know, right now, you know, there's not a lot of proofing of what is being presented right now. You know, I can look at it from a zoning perspective because, you know, the zoning conformance table's there, I can do the measurements on the plan. But from an engineering perspective, you know, Bob doesn't really have the level of detail he needs, I don't wanna speak for you, Bob, to to really do his engineering analysis of the stormwater system. So I don't think we're losing any time here. I really think that it's very advantageous for the applicant to go through this exercise and understand what he really has and to come out with the best subdivision possible.
Sabrina, did you say as we go through this process, the 4 lots could go up to 5 or more?
Sure, I don't know what he can rightfully get on this piece of property. I haven't done that analysis.
Can I jump?
Well, that's what Ralph has to do and demonstrate, but there's a possibility,
So
that he can, Greg, possibly, we don't know until he does it, we review it.
if it does go up to 5, let's just say.
Mhm.
Can I then do common or private road for the 5, or does it have to be 2? Because you only do a max of 4.
We can just do a max of 4, I think.
There may be provision in there for you to do an exception.
No, the max is 4, we had that problem at another subdivision when Les Simon chimed in, and he says you can only go up to 4. If you read the code under appendix D, it only does a maximum of 4 houses for a common driveway or subdivision, so you need another, you just need another.
However, right, again, Bob, going off of what you suggested, you might wanna do a reduced town road and then reduce the driveways off of that. I mean, there's a lot of,
That's the pre-board's problem, yes, yeah.
there's a lot of ways to design it, but yes, if you can do 5 conforming lots, we can try and do 5 lots in a conservation subdivision.
Plus you can reduce the zoning and have less disturbance.
Correct, like instead of 2 acre zoning, you bring it down to a half acre zoning.
Just to jump in on that, it will theoretically reduce the disturbance, but this is still septic and well, so you still will need some areas for those things.
Sure.
And separation distances. And then just a comment about the stormwater. The only thing missing from the stormwater is the town witness testing. We've done 21 tests throughout the site, all of our testing, the perk tests were well over what you allowable, your maximum allowable, and we've cut that in half and we've used that as our perk rate, so we're very, very conservative. We didn't hit any rock or any water on the test anywhere near our stormwater, so I'm very confident of that. So you can definitely review that.
Well, I'm not, like, quite honestly, I wouldn't review this until such time the planning board has final layout. I have a lot of concerns, I do apologize, I didn't prepare a memo, I didn't have time to do it, I'm sorry. But, there's a lot of concerns I have with the stormwater report,
But I thought we were there, that's why I thought we had the different options, but we can go back and see if we can do a conventional and maybe get 5 lots, maybe we'll get 6. Is there anything else the board?
In the phase 1, it looked like the applicant was the one that filled it out as the person that knows the most, but they've owned it for less than a year. When they acquired the property, did they get a phase 1 prior to acquisition?
I'm not sure, Greg is actually on the Zoom, you can answer that?
Yes, hi everyone, Greg Altschuler, principal of CJ Homes. Nice to see you all. We did not get phase 1, but we did, before we purchased the property, we did extensive soil testing. And it did not show anything which will give us reason to actually do phase 2. So
If I remember correctly, last time we determined that there was no testing and where there was a potential borrow pit. If I recall correctly.
the site was tested extensively.
I was looking for it in here, I didn't see it, but I think last time you had a plan that depicted where you
My existing conditions plan shows where we've done testing, where we've done
Correct.
deep test holes and perk holes. And we didn't see anything that was alarming.
If I recall correctly, and I think Dennis is shaking his head yes, we determined that there wasn't any sampling in the area where there was a borrow pit. If I'm wrong, then please submit something that shows that we're wrong. That being said, if this does move forward and there is grading in that area, I suggest when that grading, either prior to grading the area, you do a test pit, maybe Dennis, that's witnessed by somebody, to make sure that what's actually under there is good fill. and not someone burying construction debris or something that could have occurred there.
No problem, it's our benefit as well, we'll definitely do that, but that's not an issue.
Yep, thank you, Joe.
Is the gully that this I guess in the the wet part of the property, has it ever had really rough, tough, thick, heavy rainfall? Create a river for, a day or so? Is that an issue too that has to be looked at?
There's a stream in the back of our property, or kind of cuts through the center of our property.
It's swimming in a pool or in the the private house?
I'm not sure what you mean.
So,
It's a drainage area, there's a creek.
Is this area?
The lot is bisected by the creek essentially, which is where wetlands are extending out of. But it's a continuous body of water bisecting the site.
Correct, there's a wetland that goes in the center of our site on all 4 lots. And in the middle of the wetland, there's a stream, a running stream.
It's there all the time.
If it helps, cause this is the time of the year I wanted to actually go see the site. Cause if you look at the plans, it kind of struck me, the 150-foot buffer, probably due to the historic use of the property, is really void of trees. So I was just curious what this open area would produce at this time of year. And I recommend everybody take a ride and just take a look, because there's a sea of the white flower is white snake root. I got 4 different species of goldenrod. You had echinacea that obviously has already flowered, but it probably, it's a little few crickets you had to navigate your way through sort of on the slope, which had a little more disturbance. But once you got into there, it's probably the closest thing to a meadow that I've seen in my time here. And obviously I think part of that, it's ironic, was created as a result of the historic uses of the property. I would imagine scraping away the soils and whatnot. So a lot of these wildflowers that are there, they're able to make it. However, it's more of a sandy condition, but it seems to be inhibiting some of the shrub and thicket advancement. So it's just a good spot for that. So to Richard's point, I don't see any evidence there that there doesn't seem to be any, even though it is like a former sort of borrow pit or excavation pit, it doesn't seem to be accumulating anything in terms of any of the moisture. Probably just carries out, and hence the wetland, which is a pretty good size, probably takes care of that ultimately. So.
Did you have any other comments, Dennis? You had a memo here.
Sure, I left that off the memo, but since it seemed timely, I decided to just bring up those observations. Not much at this point, because obviously my first comment was just simply to just change that note just so that it complies with what we require, and it's clear to whoever the contractor may be that you need a building permit before any work commences, and that obviously we take care of the limits of the buffer and installing the silt fence. Obviously there's a list here that represents an extensive tree removal list, but there's nothing here with respect to weighing that against 121-6 as far as tree replacement. So that's something that's going to have to be submitted if there is going to be tree replacement in terms of plantings and how you're going to comply with that. And then the seeker EAF, obviously I'm not the site distance survey person, but if there was a need to remove additional trees as a result of needing to accommodate more of that distance, then obviously those trees would have to be added to the planned tree removal list. And just the mentioning, maybe a reiteration of what the phase 1 environmental site assessment concluded, that they didn't recognize any environmental conditions of concern on the property and no further environmental investigations were recommended. I guess the only question is, were you able to make those recommendations based on the soil testing that you had that we didn't know existed? Or was it just based on the phase one environmental site assessment results?
Based on our site testing.
Okay, and maybe I missed it, were those included in the phase one report or no?
I don't think they were.
Okay. Okay, just hanging out there at this point, that's all. Those are for my comments, thank you.
I mean, Ralph, my concern is that there's something there, you start grading and you spread it across the whole site. Cause I've seen that happen before. That's the only, as the applicant has stated, it's for their benefit to make sure that in the past someone didn't bury something.
Understood. We'll spread that out, we'll find out.
I know you spent a good deal of time and we had a lot of information here about sightlines. It seems to me, again, if we have just a single conventional road cut, that you will be able to maximize your sightlines. I know that some of these were not meeting standards and so that's not good with these driveways. So perhaps this will also help you on that sightline issue as well. You know, proving out the
Chairman?
road cut.
Can I say something on the sidelines?
Sure, please.
The sightline study that they submitted is unacceptable because it does not face the intersection stopping sight distance nor the stopping sight distance on the 85th percentile speed. All they simply did was bump up the speed limit 5 miles an hour, which I know will not cut it because the state would no doubt want to see 85th percentile, which is to bump these speeds up well over the speed limit right now. And I'm sure the state, and I will too as well, need intersection stopping sight distances at all driveways and intersections, and also too, Dennis kind of mentioned it before, I will not accept, and neither will the state accept, that you can't make a sight distance because you don't want to cut down a tree or relocate a wall. That is not a reason not to get the required stopping sight distance when it comes to safety of an automobile. So that report has to be revamped and redone.
All right. Anything else? Any other questions, issues? If not, we'll wait to hear from you when you have your materials and we'll take a look at it and go from there. Okay, thanks so much.
Yep, good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Our next item is a discussion item. This is on Freefall Realty Corp., Kittle House, 11 Kittle Road, discussion of a temporary cooking facility.
Good evening, Ken Anderson with Crown Oak Architects. I represent the recent new owners of the Kittle House, the Crace family. Joining me tonight is Scott Crace, Chris Crace, and Jackson Crace. Also here is John Gendy, the general manager of the Kittle House, in case we have any operational questions. So we're here before you because of a long ongoing thing that was happening before they bought the Kittle House for some emergency repairs that had to happen with the hood in the kitchen. And what they had believed was further along in the process until they closed was not. So now they're at a point where when the fire chief came in to inspect after closing, he wanted them to immediately fix the problem, which they would like to do. But they already have pre-booked events from before they bought it that they wanna honor. And in that process, they have found a mobile kitchen company, and Scott can talk more of that if you have questions, that will be able to suffice handling these events. Our site plan that we submitted to you just shows the location of it, where the utilities are gonna connect in, how it is located next to the building, and pretty much the most logical place to put it, because it's the closest proximity to the existing kitchen in and out. So if Scott Crace.
Good evening, thanks for staking it out here, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, staff. We closed about 3 weeks ago, exactly 3 weeks ago. As Ken noted, we've been working through the summer with Crabtree to try to get sort of an answer from the fire department in terms of what the hood situation would be in order to get our permit renewed. That dragged throughout the whole summer. We got to closing, we met with the fire department, and what was a little repair became 2 hoods that we needed to get ordered. We have since been working with Allsafe on the specs for the hoods. We've been working with the fire department. Robbie's been out a number of times. And this really comes down to our desire, our family's desire to honor the events that have been booked, previously. We're long-term Chapel residents. We took it over. We're keeping everything the same. We're thrilled that the staff has remained the same, and we just didn't want to start off by calling up people and canceling events. So we've been scouring to try to get a mobile kitchen. Not that easy. We found one, as Ken laid out. You've been gracious with your time because we put this together quickly last week with some help from the staff. But that's where we are, and that's what we'd like to do. It's temporary. We think we can get everything done in a month. Just to be safe, we've contracted for the mobile kitchen to be up to 2 months. Happy to answer any specs or any other questions, but that's the situation that brought us here tonight.
Okay, great. I was hoping for hors d'oeuvres, but I just.
Some
long.
I
did make cookie
kitchen.
Exactly.
I would have brought a
Do you-
pecan
Do
pie.
you have a picture, do you have a picture of what the mobile kitchen looks like? I know we have a plan.
I think we don't have a picture of the.
No, we do have a video.
We have video. I can send you a
Does it
video.
look
It
like
looks like
just
the
a-
fire department's
Does it look like a construction trailer?
It's literally a tractor trailer.
It's a tractor trailer,
Yeah,
okay.
so on the backside, there's the, in the plan, you come out and that's how you bring
It's
the
probably
service.
nicer than the existing kitchen, but it's something you would see at the Super Bowl. I mean, it's industrial.
Gotcha.
It's got everything, safety features, again, it's the fire department is actually thrilled because the work that we have to do inside the kitchen and get that up to par, so.
Do you know what color it is?
White.
It's white, okay.
Yeah, that's our understanding.
And
It'll be a light color.
on the drawing behind you,
Yes.
so I'm just curious, where's the closest neighbor to it?
The closest neighbor is right here.
Okay, and that's.
Is there a neighbor here
And there's
also?
yeah, but
There's a hill
stockade-
there,
there's a
right?
stockade fence that goes down, there's a hill that goes
There's a
way
hill
up
right
here.
there, right?
You know,
So it's
trees.
very, and there's a lot of tree screening.
Yeah, it's just, that place is flat.
No,
It's
that, I
right
know the spot, okay.
Yeah, so when you pull in to the left. So.
And then it goes down to the country club on the other.
Correct.
The country club's on the back,
Yeah,
yeah.
if you,
Pitch, yeah, it only starts pitching
this is
out.
one
Yeah, it's
lower parking here,
Yep.
and then there's sort of grass overflow parking all below.
And the outdoor space is right
The
there.
outdoor spaces here, yeah, and this is the atrium.
Right. And you're gonna put up a fence anyway, a temporary fence around it?
Yes, this line, X line is a fence that goes all the way around. There is, we call this the annex. There are in-rooms currently there that you can get to from within the restaurant space, but there is an egress door here, so we're maintaining that egress through.
Gotcha.
And the yellow represents, the health department makes you, any outdoor kitchen space, you have to have it covered all the way, to where you serve the food, until you go inside, so that's all gonna be tented professionally from the mobile trailer to the existing kitchen where they're gonna serve from. I shouldn't say existing kitchen, it's a prep area, not the kitchen itself.
And just to be exact, we actually may get a slightly smaller trailer. This one I think we showed you was 43 feet, it may end up being 40 feet, if that's okay.
And I think because this is a unique property within a 1 acre zone, it's normally under the purview of the ZBA for a special permit. I think they sent a memo to you guys saying that because of the emergency situation, and it's temporary, they were fine with you guys making a decision on.
I think they just want a referral from us, I think they're gonna make the
Yeah,
decision.
they just want you to kind of weigh in on it and
Right.
let the building inspector know.
But the ZBA and the building inspector will make the call on this. So I think, when do you go back to the ZBA? When are you scheduled next?
They're not going to the ZBA, it's all in the ZBA said that the building inspector should handle it. They would like the planning board to weigh in on the location.
Okay. Good, alright. Any problems or issues with the location?
No, what was the issue with the hood?
The hood, well, again, there's an existing hood, John Crabtree felt like it could be repaired, he's been going back and forth with the fire department. We were very skeptical, we closed with sort of the knowledge that we would bring the fire department in right away. It needs to be replaced, fully.
It's a fire violation right now.
And so what was maybe 1 or 2 days of closing, which was no problem, is gonna be weeks.
The only reason, this seems like a lot to jump through, if there could have been like a fire watch or something along those lines, which you know, I've done in our buildings when we don't have the full life safety system operational. I mean, I'm fine with this, but I just,
No, we're spending a lot of money to make sure, honestly, that the events go off.
Yeah.
We're not gonna, this is a loss.
so you're not using the existing kitchen at all?
No, we
or
wanna do it
anything that
right,
creates-
it's really important to do this right,
Yeah.
start off right.
Okay.
I agree with you on everything you said, but we've made this decision.
Yep, good.
So,
Anyone else? If not, I guess Sabrina will just send a note out to, who is it then? The ZBA or to Tom? or-
No, to the building inspector, to Tom.
Okay, we'll send a note out saying that we have no problems with the location and I think it's very commendable that you're living up to those obligations. It's terrific, it's a great start, it's a great tradition.
we've had many Christmas parties there, it's something that's very close to us and hopefully the community, so.
Thank you for sticking out with us, by the way.
I feel bad for John, cause
It's a
we dragged
process.
him here, but he says that he knows what you all eat, so.
All of you guys. I'm sorry I'm very bad with name, but all of you guys are in tequila.
I hear it's pork chop to go and I hear it's
Pork chop,
eggplant
eggplant
parm.
Yes, yes.
Anyway, thank you again and we look forward to seeing you guys there.
Great, very good, thanks.
Best of luck.
Thank you. Okay, we have the minutes of September 10 before us. Any questions or changes on the minutes? Questions?
No comments on
Changes?
I had none.
Okay.
None.
None? Nothing? Okay, is there therefore a motion to adopt the minutes of September 10th?
Motion?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I think that's about it. Is there a motion to close the meeting?
Motion to close.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alrighty.